Hello, BookTube. I'm back with Desert Island Books, and our castaway this week is Gavin from Genre Books.
Hello.
Thanks, Gavin.
Yeah.
So, there's a few people here. Let's just look at a few. Jenny's here. Evening, fellow book nerds. How was everyone's weekend?
Oh, well, coming to an end, unfortunately. Hello, Jenny. Hi, Aaron.
Hi. Yeah, I didn't get a whole lot done. Again, for some silly reason, I've done 4 lives this weekend. 2 of my own and 2 for Mark. I don't know why. And I had to get up really early for the one this morning for Mark.
I've done about
Joseph
6
D's here.
lives ever.
Yeah. So yeah, we can jump in. We've got I hate saying this, 7 people. Watch the numbers drop. So we'll start out. Tell us something about yourself, Gavin, and keep it clean.
My name's Gavin. I have been on BookTube for a year and a month. I had been watching BookTube for probably about a year before that, thinking about taking the plunge in. I live in the southeast of England. I work in London. I am married with 2 children. Been married 19 years, got a 16-year-old and a 15-year-old. That's the potted history. I've been about a little bit. Probably the most far-flung place was living in Zimbabwe for 3 years, shortly after independence. My dad got a job as part of the Overseas Development Corporation, so I spent 3 years there, which was between the ages of 7 and 10. And then lived in a fair few places in the UK, but and now I'm here.
And when you were in Zimbabwe, do you remember? Did you get to see Victoria Falls and the great ruins of?
Yes. Didn't see Great Zimbabwe ruins, but we saw Victoria Falls, Hwange National Park. I know you said keep it clean, but it used to be called Wanky National Park.
Yeah.
Kariba, Lake Kariba and Kariba Dam, Inyanga Falls, and we lived in Harare and literally just round the corner from Robert Mugabe. So very occasionally you'd find the roads get shut off because he was on his maneuvers. He was only prime minister at that point. He hadn't made himself president.
Just look at a few comments here. I was lazy and did zip reading. What's zip reading? I have no idea.
No reading.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. I was thinking like a zip line. Yeah. Mark's here. Hello.
Hi, Mark.
Pat's here.
Hi, Pat.
And Jenny saying, hey, Aaron, Joseph, Mark, and Pat. Hi, Jen. Hi, Jenny. Well, Jenny, I should say. So, yeah, your channel. So what do you do basically on your channel? What type of stuff do you look at?
I do stuff which no longer corresponds to what I originally intended to do. So it was going to be largely science fiction, fantasy. I had some ideas of a couple of projects I wanted to get done, and very quickly got pulled in a dozen different directions at once, quite willingly so. But it has mostly been looking at older books. I don't do much in the way of anything from this century. There's not a hard and fast rule, but it just generally just ends up being usually older, usually still genre fiction, but I tried not to be constrained by anything other than the events of that month, really. So I will, when I started this, I would not have thought I'd be doing like a series on Zane Grey, for example. I'd only read a couple of Westerns by that point, but I'm getting very much into it now. And it's going to happen again. I didn't used to read a lot of horror, but now I'm slowly getting a little bit more under my belt. And the same with detective fiction. I read some detective fiction years and years ago, but everyone seems to love it. And I thought, I've got to give it a go. And, I'm falling into that rabbit hole as well. So then I find out how many science fiction writers have written detective fiction, because they're largely pulp writers as well. Most of these guys were sort of multi-genre. And sort of as I followed these writers through their paths, it's leading me in different directions as well. So I try to do a little bit of everything, probably pleasing nobody.
Well, we're doing together the Arabian Nights, so that's a long one. That's another rabbit hole for a year and a bit.
And that is going to go in a whole bunch of other directions as well. I mean, it's already started. We say, well, look at this. It's come from here. We think, Arabian Nights. And I think we spent the first episode talking about all the stuff from India and Persia. So it's, you can't, it's like nailing jelly to a wall. It can't be done with some of these subjects.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of this stuff would be boring if you just talked about what happened in the story that you just read, because the people that are going to watch it are the ones that have read it already. So yeah, I know that. Oh, you're talking about this. Oh, I didn't know about that.
Or you're just talking about the thing that came out that week. So simultaneously spoiling it for everybody. And you have, you end up talking about stuff with no sort of proper historical context as well.
Well, can you spoil something like the Arabian Nights, the 1001 Nights? It's been around for a while. It's like somebody, I remember the joke is that somebody got irate at somebody for spoiling either the Odyssey or the Iliad somewhere. And I'm going, really?
Yeah, don't tell them how don't tell them how Sinbad ends.
Yeah,
we've all seen the films. Probably does nothing like that at all.
Oh, the one thing I do want to say is I love the name for your Zane Grey one.
50 Zanes of Grey.
Yeah, that's fabulous.
I think sometimes I'm my own worst enemy. That I'll probably have. I'll start with the pun and then say, right, that's what I'm going to be doing. Yeah. So all the way through this month, I'm slowly looking at every portrayal of Miss Marple purely so I could call it the Marple Cinematic Universe. And
that's cool. Yeah.
And I'm going to end up talking about Marple anime in a couple of weeks' time.
Tell me there is no such real thing.
Please. Yes.
Oh
yeah, there's God. I'm not going to watch it. I'm going to watch a couple of episodes of it, but there is a 30-episode series. It's Hercule Poirot and Miss Marple.
Oh my God. I did not need there's information that I did not need to know. Just go through a few more comments here. Gareth is here.
Gareth.
Hello, everybody. And everybody saying hi. Joe's saying hi, Jenny. And Gareth saying this will be epic. Well, hopefully. Jenny says, hey, Gareth. Hey, hi, Gareth. For hi, Mark. What a great group. And Pat was saying, yeah, I was on the backs of learning stuff. I just learned from Gareth's most recent video that Ray Bradbury wrote quite a bit of detective fiction. Did not know that. Yeah, he was one that risked, like, what genre did he not write in? He wrote everything basically, and a lot of them did.
I think someone said that Asimov has like most of the Dewey Decimal.
Yeah.
All of that table covered pretty much. But I think he didn't write anything on psychology, and that's about it. But then he could do all the non-fiction as well.
Sorry?
He could do all the non-fiction as well.
Yeah. Other than psychohistory.
I'm not sure what Dewey Decimal classification is for that.
Yeah. That was pointed out to him, and I don't think he had an answer to that. And Asimov wrote mysteries as well. So, and they're really good.
They were, I don't know if they were in the same club, but he was part of some sort of detective writer club, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was. It was like a dinner club. But
yeah, he spoofed it by the Black Widows. He called it like his short stories. Gareth's saying here, yeah, his early stuff, Ray Bradbury's early stuff, you can see him flexing his writing muscles. Used to be only detective fiction had spoilers. Yeah. Yeah, that's the one. Like, to me, spoilers are fine, but I don't want to know who did it in the mystery one. That's the only particular thing I don't want to know.
Well, this is it. I mean, it's more than that. A spoiler is spoiling the ending.
Yeah.
You can't talk about a book and not talk about the premise of the book. And talking about the premise of the book is not spoiling it.
Yeah, but you say that the butler did it. I did not want to know that. Jenny says, don't spoil Iliad or Odyssey. I haven't read them yet. It's Greg, right? I think it's Greg, Ghost Readers in the Sky. Or if I got it wrong, I apologize. But yeah, did I say Ghost Readers in the Sky? I can't even read. I'm opposed to puns. Hi, Gavin. You ought to have a look at the two Ronnies Poirot. I don't know that one.
I don't recall.
I now have to look that one up. See, I don't want to know about the enemy, but I do want to know about this one.
You have to explain for some of your viewers who the two Ronnies were.
That's a spoiler. Let them look up fork handles, by themselves.
There's a lovely little end to the story for that one. So when Ronnie Barker died, it was a really big, really big news, like front page news that you wouldn't get for like a light entertainment person, and a burial at Westminster Abbey. And when they had the procession at Westminster Abbey, you always had someone carrying 2 candles up the aisle. And only for his funeral, they had 4 candles.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought you were going to mention the little Ronnie and the other one that did the updated version of it with windows and.
Oh yeah, he's in the fruit shop.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
My apple doesn't work.
It's a worthy sequel to the original. Let's see here. Mick saying, "I'll try again, Gavin. If you have the time, spend 15 minutes watching the two Ronnies with a Marvel spoof guy. Can no longer hear about Miss Marple without thinking of Mrs. Marbles." I have to find this. I have to find this because I don't know it.
I can't recall that, and I thought I'd seen them all by now. Yeah.
Guess that I was going to say Fork Handles is the best way in. Ronnie Barker wrote loads of for different shows under different names. Yeah. No idea who Ronnie is.
Which one?
Yeah, which one? Which one don't you know? Do you know Ronnie, or is it the other? Is it Ronnie that you don't know? That hits the nostalgia. I used to watch the two Ronnies with my mom when I was a kid. See, we got the two Ronnies in Canada. See, we're going on a tangent here, but that's fine. We got the two Ronnies in Canada. We got a little bit of Morecambe and Wise, but when I come here in the UK, everybody's so much talking about Morecambe and Wise. And when I don't like Morecambe and Wise. I love the two Ronnies, but I don't care for Morecambe and Wise.
There are a few Morecambe and Wise sketches. They worked really well when they had a guest star. That one with Andre Previn, I think, is top 10. That's up there. But some of the other stuff,
don't think I've seen that.
Oh yeah, you that's the one you've got to watch. Go Morecambe and Wise and Andre Previn. It's brilliant. But yeah, the Ronnie Barker used to submit sketches to his own show under pseudonym, and just to see if they would be accepted, and they always were.
I want to get his book on Seaside Postcards. I want to get his book, but I've never found it. And well, I'm sure you can, but it's got to be worth a lot of money.
one more line from the from Ronnie Barker. One of the best lines when they were doing their news bit at the beginning of the show. It says, "In this, and tonight we're going to be talking to a lady who likes Nicholas Parsons, and a parson who likes Nicholas ladies."
Yeah, that's a good one. Debs is here. Hello, Debs.
Hi, Debs.
Yeah, Aaron's right. Yeah, the class sketch with John Cleese is good. Yeah, that's really good.
That's the Frost Report. That's way before my time.
Debs, they're very different. Markham and Wise is all about Eric's character. Ronnie's were sketches. Yeah, but I just didn't find Markham and Wise funny in general. And almost everything that the two Ronnies did. And also, too, the thing is, somebody pointed out to me, it's wordplay that the Ronnies do. They do a lot of wordplay, and they said that's why I probably like it more than others. And that could be right. That's it for the Ronnies. Let's get into books. we diverted long enough. It's only a 3-hour cruise, so we diverted for a little bit. So, what's your first book that you will take?
It's not this one, because what I'll want is the collected short stories, but this is a collection of some of his short stories. So the collected short stories of Jorge Luis Borges. I first read him, I must have been about 18 years old, possibly 18, 19. And I think
1890? Sorry, what?
Yes, that's it. 1890. That was the year he was born, wasn't it? So 18 or 19 years old. And it was just a revelation. It's reading his short stories is like reading a MC Escher painting. They are such sort of constructs seen from such weird perspectives that he fits into a couple of pages an entire world that he's constructed with a history and a metaphor and everything that goes with it. I mean, this is a very slim version of fictions, but Tlon, Uqbar, and Orbish Tertius is less than 20 pages. The Babylon Lottery is 7 pages. And what he can fit into something, the Funes de Memorias is less than 10 pages. Mm. And he gives you character, concept, and extrapolation all within that. And you will feel like you've read something that is 100, 150 pages long in just a few pages, which is going to be helpful to pass the time. But there is just a lot to think about with his writing. And he's very knowledgeable. I'm sure that half of the allusions, half of the references, half of the footnotes that he draws up are relating to fictional books, stuff he's made up, stuff he's woven into it. But the other half will be a product of just a lifetime of learning. And, he sort of walked the walk as well. He became director of the National Library of Argentina. And within about 3 years, he'd gone blind. And he saw the irony in that. He said, well, I've just got this amazing gift and night time at the same time. It's didn't stop him writing. So he even at sort of, I think he's in his sort of 60s by that point. He then has a new challenge. He's got to learn how to, read or have people read to him. He's got to learn how to sort of dictate rather than write. But he carries on, and he's still able to hold his job as the director of a library, which is it's there's a lot of sort of personal bravery there. There's some political bravery as well, because some of the authority figures in Argentina on the right side of things, or the Peronist side of things, didn't like him. And yeah, I think I haven't read everything. I would love to. It's been years since I read fictions, so it would give me a chance to read fictions again. I have the Aleph to read this year. Last year I read the Book of Imaginary Beings, which is, I mean, as a conceit, it's fantastic. It's just a complete bestiary. And again, it's some of these animals he's made up himself. Some of them are mythological animals, and then there's some real animals thrown in there as well, as if this was, you know, someone from medieval times trying to explain to you what a giraffe was, for example. And if you've seen those sort of medieval pictures of, you know, well, this is, I've heard a second or third hand story, and this is what a hippo looks like, and it's just, what the hell is that?
Yeah, and this shocks people. I've never read anything by him, and I want to, and I haven't yet. And I was just talking to Mark Richardson about earlier today, this evening, about the fact that I never had, you know, I didn't have the internet when I was growing up to look up stuff, and I didn't go to the library that much, but the local libraries wouldn't have had something like that. So it was bookstores. So if it wasn't on the shelf, then I would never have been exposed to it. And I'm surprised at how much I was exposed to, but then there's stuff specifically that I wasn't. Going back to even the E.M. Forster that you finished with I think you were reading with Debs, and you were saying that you need to read Maurice. That's the only one that I haven't read, because I would never have seen that on the shelf. So, you know, and so that's why I never did. And I really do, because everybody says of how great of a short story writer he is. And that, to me, everything you've explained there is a master. Like, if you could do all that, you are a master of the short story.
He's just a complete craftsman. It's these delicate structures he has created with some of this. Just the ideas are legion, and he's written some detective stuff as well. He was first published. They're odd. There's what's it called? Death and the Compass. I think his first published translated work actually appeared in the Ellery Queen Detective Quarterly or something.
Oh wow, okay.
Which is, you know, for someone who is so academic, is an odd place for him to have turned up first. But yeah, there's detective stuff in there as well. But this is more sort of ontological conundrum detective type stuff. It's not, you know, just whodunit.
Well, I think there's a few like I've seen sort of a red and blackish hardcover, and I think it's this, like, you can get a volume, or is it a couple volumes of his complete short stories. That's what I would want.
That's the one I'm having, please.
I think it's complete. I think it's, or is it maybe it's only collected, but I'd sort of hope it would be complete. Let's catch up on some, hopefully there's some questions here about Borges. Going back to the two Ronnies. Hey, book thing. Oh, yeah. Okay. I was trying to figure out what you meant. Hello.
Hello.
Nice first choice. Borges. Yeah. And Nick, with reference to Eric and Ernie, as the saying goes, you had to be there. It hasn't aged well.
I specialize in stuff that hasn't aged well.
Yeah. You have Steve's secret to eternal youth, Gavin. Yeah. 1890s. Like reading an Escher painting. Yeah. That, everything that people have told me about his writing, that really, really encapsulates what everybody has said to me. And I love Escher as well. It's just like it screws with your mind.
Yeah, I could have just said that.
Yeah, okay. I'll delete everything else. So when I get it down, I'll edit everything else out. Just do the sound bites. That's all we do. So that's it's a great number one, as Mark says. What's number two? And I don't mean that in a
one I haven't read. Bleak House by Charles Dickens.
That wasn't on your list, was it?
Yeah, it was.
Was it?
Yeah.
I don't put it on your list. Oh,
1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, well, do you know what? It might not have been. I've got 9 on this list. I snuck one in. We'll come back to it later, maybe.
No, that's fine.
I don't have much to say about it because I've not read it.
I love it. I've read it several times, and it's so far my favorite Dickens. But I was so surprised.
Oh, sorry, I've sprung one on you there. Yeah, I'm working off of my list. This is probably my unedited list that I then sent to you. So I'll probably type it up.
If you want to do it, because you already did it there, pull it up and say why. Because I'll give the dispensation of 9 books.
Dickens is someone I've read a fair bit of, and I still have a fair bit left to read. That's literally my only reasoning. And also that I've loved everything that I have read from him. I think it's just monolithic. I did a literature degree. You can't escape Dickens. Even if you don't read any Dickens, things are Dickensian. Or if you are talking about any subject pretty much in the Victorian era, then Dickens is going to come up. And then you will end up reading some Dickens as well. And there's some big Dickens books I've not read. I haven't read Tale of the Two Cities. I haven't read Bleak House. I haven't read Our Mutual Friend, but I've read Pickwick Papers and Hard Times and Oliver Twist and Nicholas Nickleby and almost everything of him I love. I don't mind that you can see that he's being paid by the word. I love those long descriptions. There's always some inventiveness in there. One thing I'm not a big fan of is the accents.
Do me a favor and read the first paragraph out of Bleak House.
I don't have to sing it along to the theme tune from Simon and Simon or anything, do I?
No. It is just.
Oh, wait a minute. I think I've read this before. Is it talking about a dinosaur?
Yeah. But it's brilliant. It's like the whole. Yeah. I love
London, Michaelmas term lately over, and the Lord Chancellor sitting in Lincoln's Inn Hall. Implacable November weather, as much mud in the streets as if the waters had but newly retired from the face of the earth, and it would not be so wonderful to meet a megalosaurus 40 feet long or so, waddling like an elephantine lizard up Holborn Hill. Yeah,
it continues on a little bit, but that is just absolutely fabulous. It's gothic, it's everything, just in that one.
And it's London as well.
Yes.
Which it often is, which this last week I've just finished a buddy read with Pat of The Anubis Gates by Tim Powers. With The Anubis Gates, the title of The Anubis Gates, I was not expecting it all to be about London, but it was. Okay. and that was fun, and it was Victorian London as well, and it has a Dickens vibe. Well, it's not Victorian London. It's 1811, 1812. It flits about a little bit. It's about time travel. So Regency or late Georgian or whatever it is, but has a Dickensian feel to it. but it was all like looking at London landmarks, and I was trying to find out, oh, is this pub still here? Unfortunately, it wasn't, but I did find out things that were still there, 230 years later from when they're being written about. And that's always nice when you sort of like, you get that. And London can surprise you. Sometimes you find something, oh, wait a minute, I've heard of this pub. So I think you can go, you can go to the old Cheshire Cheese where Charles Dickens used to drink. That's probably about 5-minute walk from where I work. What have you got? Some Cheshire cheese.
Pubs, but it is London coffee houses.
There are coffee houses in the book as well.
And it just, it just lists the history of every coffee house. It is a fabulous book. I wish he would have did one. He did one on signs, and I wish he did one on pubs, and then one on taverns. I just wish. Well, I know there's a crossover there, but anyway. Should I tell my Tim Powers story, even though it has nothing to do with the stuff that we're doing?
Yep.
Okay. I've never read Tim Powers. I used to sell books, and I used to buy the science fiction newsletter. It was called Locus. And then I went to a library book sale, and I bought bound copies of Locus. So then I actually had a complete run up to the early 90s. When I started selling books, I put this online. Tim Powers bought my collection of Locus. And like he called me up to make sure I was real, I guess. So I'm speaking on his phone, and he says if I ever want any of his books signed or something, I could mail it to him, and he'd mail them back. And I just never, and I have never read it by him for some reason. And it's not because of that, but I just I do want to read the Anubis Gates at some point. But I just thought it was interesting to get somebody like that because I knew who he was. But it was just kind of cool. So if he might still have on his shelf my collection of Locus. If you're watching, Tim, I hope you still have it and enjoying it.
Put him in the taglines underneath when you're done.
Yeah. Getting back to Charles Dickens, there's several that I haven't read either. So here's a new reading because I was going to read chronologically. I was going to start reading again from the beginning and slowly read through them. So there's another reading project for us. Just to add to all the others.
Well, I haven't read Sketches by Boz. I presume you're starting there.
Exactly. And then Pickwick. And then,
I love Pickwick. I mean, that's one of the things I love about Dickens. It's funny. And Pickwick doesn't really have the whole social commentary thing going on. It is much more episodic, picaresque. Yeah. But it is a lot funnier. I mean, something like, I haven't read Bleak House, but I know that, not only is it an important book in terms of literature, but it actually got things happening in Great Britain and got the law changed.
Yeah.
Because of that long drawn out legal case.
Book thing is saying great Dickens choice, and then back to the legal case, John Dice, which is also the name of a very big antiquarian bookseller in London as well. And I think they're still going, as far as I know. Pat says she loves Bleak House too. One of my favorites as well. Yeah, it's my favorite so far, but I haven't read them all. But it's my favorite so far. And the book thing says, yeah, the opening chapter is so evocative, and especially that first paragraph is just so good. So, okay, what's your second book now?
Yes, my book 2B. I'll choose the one that I probably bumped Bleak House in favor of, and it's a reread. I don't do rereads, but I do want to reread this one, Vanity Fair by William Makepeace Thackeray. So written in the Victorian era, set around the time of the Napoleonic Wars, so a little bit before the Victorian era. One I read for A level, and I, again, was just blown away by it. I hadn't read much older literature by that point. So when at school they assigned the reading and I come back with this 800-page book, I was feeling a little bit daunted. And you just breeze through it. I mean, you're aware that there's 800 pages, but it is just so compulsive. He is not talked about enough, Thackeray. And I think it's because Vanity Fair probably his only really famous book.
Barry
We have
Lyndon,
the history of
possibly. Yeah.
Henry Esmond.
Yeah. Barry Lyndon.
Barry Lyndon. Well, I mean, even now, I don't think it's read very much. Probably people more aware of the film than they are of the book.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there are loads of writers who are famous for one book, maybe a couple, and it could be like a really important book, like Lawrence Stern and Tristram Shandy. It doesn't get spoken about very much. Vanity Fair probably does, but more for its adaptations than for the actual text itself. And I think it's got one of the most readable heroines in, well, certainly that I've read in Victorian literature. She certainly seems to, Becky Sharp certainly seems to have a lot more agency about her. Now, I'm going to be doing a disservice there to lots of other Victorian heroines, but I think at the time, what I was sort of comparing it to is the Samuel Richardson heroines, which are they are just having stuff happen to them, and you want to will them to have a bit of pushback to them. Becky Sharp is all pushback. She is completely on the make from the get-go, and it's fantastic. You're just rooting for her throughout the entire 800 pages. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I'm not sure when we did this, but like Mark, Book Time with Elvis says Vanity Fair because we read this, or I reread it last year, and I remember loving it the first time and not loving it as much the second time. So if this is a reread for you, be careful. Like it may not, like I don't know if it was just me or it just there was something that it wasn't as fresh or something maybe the second time, but that's all I say. Maybe be a bit wary of that because it's the only I've been doing a lot of rereading, and it's really the only one. Well, no, I guess Hunchback, the Notre Dame de Paris was another one that sort of dropped slightly for me on the reread. Most either maintain or go further, but for some reason these didn't. But I still liked it. Like that's what I say. Like there was nothing. I would never say it was a bad book or even less than good. It didn't reach the heights of my first read for some reason. I don't know. And it's just like Becky Sharp is despicable. I hate her. I don't like her as a character. Like at the beginning, she throws a one volume Johnson's dictionary out the window of the thing. It's like, don't. I want that.
You're getting like what people get when a dog is killed in a book. Don't damage the book in the.
Well, that's Mark doesn't like especially dogs or animals in books, which is just fine. But
imagine someone threw Johnson's dictionary at a dog. That'd be terrible for both of you.
Oh. What did I just lost it. Oh, talk about female. That's something that you've got to read. Like you like the serialization of stuff is the mysteries of London. That is absolutely fabulous. It goes on at times, but there is some very interesting female characters. And it seems that in sensational literature, it was very common to have cross-dressing, but women dressed up as men. And it was very common, and that happens in there. And you gotta wonder about these Victorians.
Well, I mean, you would hope that these days that a woman does not have to dress like a man in order to get ahead. Well, that's supposed to be the idea.
Yeah.
Well, it definitely isn't the idea back then.
There was an inheritance involved, but I won't go further than that. But it was
and that's something that is particular to the UK. We probably exported it to other countries, but that whole, the first son inherits everything.
Yeah,
is not what happens, in France, for example. So you probably don't have as much of this in France because you are not, it's not about power. It's just usually about the cash.
Yeah. No, that's a big part of it in Mysteries of London, but it's fabulous, and I want to continue, but I don't know when I will. So if you ever get around to it, I might have to then reread. It's only 2,000 and some pages long, the first series.
Okay, that's not as bad as I thought, actually.
Well, that's the first one. There's 2,000 for the second series, and probably 1,000 for the next series, and I think 4,000 or 5,000 pages for the final bits, or more.
Yeah, maybe that's what I was thinking of.
It could be around 12 to 15,000 pages in total, the whole saga, and I'm determined to read it sometime. But Debs says she wants Dickens readathon. So there you go. There's another thumbs up for it. I'm not sure does this mean I can sneak in more books, Shawn?
Just have them on your list. Don't tell Shawn about it, and then forget.
You could trick me once. Vanity
Fair. You can trick him once, Jenny.
And Debs loved Vanity Fair. Have you read Gone with the Wind, Gavin? Quite a few similarities to Vanity Fair. Mark was saying that too, and I don't know. I didn't really see it, but I can see it once it's pointed out.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, yes, there is the backdrop of war. You have a scheming character. I've not read it. I watched a film and I couldn't bloody bear it. So, yeah, the book may be fantastic, but I hope it's not tightly based on the book because I couldn't stand the book. Sorry, the film.
Yeah, the film is beautiful to look at because of the Technicolor and everything like that. But yeah, I struggle sitting through it, and I've done it a few times. And a friend of mine used to call it the big fart.
I liked the music. I liked what's his name, Leslie Howard. I like Clark Gable. There's nothing wrong with the actors. I mean, the four main actors are all great. I'm not rooting for the same team that whoever has made the film is rooting for. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, like I say, it's visually stunning. You can't get away from that. And the burning of Atlanta is fabulous on a big screen. If you get to see it, it still looks really good. But yeah, there's just something about it, and I didn't like the book either. That's the thing. I'm in the minority that didn't like the book, and it's not because of people don't. A lot of people now read it and don't like it because of the slavery and the racism. And to me, is if that's not in there, then there's something wrong because it should. It's not that it's good, but I mean, it's like it's not a correct depiction of the times. But it's just something else about it that I just didn't. It's like as you say with the movie. The movie has everything going for it: cinematography, the acting, but it just there's just something about it that just doesn't work.
First Oscar for a black actor as well.
Yeah, Mammy. Is it Mammy? Yeah.
That's the character. Is it Hattie or Hetty?
Yeah. I can't think of I can't think of her name. And that's bad. I should know her name. I'm with you. The film is interminable. I've never gone through it. Yeah, a lot of people do, but then other people love it.
It's a shame. It's got a great last line.
Yeah, but like even Mark says, yeah, I did not like Gone with the Wind movie or book. Yeah, I feel the exact same way. I feel the same way, and I don't know why. And Mark loves the other Mark loves the film, and he loved the book even more. He's in the minority. I mean, no, we're in the minority. Mark, Book Time with Elvis is in the majority, generally speaking, for most people, I think. Yeah,
oh, I mean, it's a massive. I know it's Hattie somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, we're still talking about it. What is this now? It's 1939. So
yeah,
80 years later, people still have a visceral reaction to it, good or bad. So, I mean, it obviously does something right. So doesn't tempt me to read it.
Now, number 3.
Okay. Where you were saying about that there was no internet when, so you might not have known about someone like Borges. It got me thinking, I can't remember where I first heard about Borges, but I think it might be this writer got me looking at Borges. So this is Foucault's Pendulum by Umberto Eco, but obviously his most famous book is The Name of the Rose.
Yeah.
And the librarian in The Name of the Rose is Jorge of Burgos. That's the name of the monk.
Okay.
And he's blind. So he's a blind librarian, and he basically is Jorge Luis Borges.
See, I never made that connection, and nobody's pointed that out. But that makes so much sense now.
Because I didn't have the internet either. So I've chosen a book. I read this again. I'm probably about 17 when I read this first time around. I remember getting it out of the library. I really enjoyed it because I read The Name of the Rose just before this. This is very different. And I can barely remember anything about it. But the best way I could think of trying to describe this is it's like a Dan Brown novel for literate people.
Yeah.
It has everything. It has all the conspiracies, but the artifice is you have a bunch of publishers who are publishing works by conspiracy theorists and just decide, why are we even bothering with the writers? We've got basically all the ideas, all the crazy ideas that have come to us. Let's do our own. And in the process, stumble upon something real. So they're making stuff up, and then it turns out to, have actually some basis in reality. And, what ensues from that, which I shall not spoil, mostly because I can't really remember it, which is one of the reasons I'm taking it with me onto the island. But I love Umberto Eco as well. So he's in that same area as Borges. But whereas with Borges, it's all very tight and tightly structured, Eco is much more discursive, verbose. He goes on at lots of different tangents, but they're all really interesting tangents. And I don't think I've read a Duff book by him. I think I've read most of his novels. I think maybe there's one I haven't read. So there's the Island of the Day Before. There's the Name of the Rose. There's Bordellino. And then last year, I read The Mysterious Flame of Queen Loana,
Yeah, that one I liked.
which has a lot of pulp in it.
It does. That's why I picked it up when I saw that. I actually got it from the library and I picked it up and go, "Oh, this is Italian pulps. I know nothing about that."
And it turns out that the Italian pulps were just the American pulps, and they've just renamed all the heroes to give them Italian names and maybe make them a little bit fascist.
Yeah, I did like it. I like that one. And again, that was somebody I never found on the bookshelves of bookstores. I came late to it because I came to it from Name of the Rose. So then I purposely sought out to find him because I knew who he was. So it wasn't a discovery that way. But and then Borges and a lot of other things like that, I just never came across. So and nobody told me about them, so I missed them. But if it was in a film, and if I really liked the film and I found it was based on a book, then I would search it out.
And he's one of those writers where you just get led in lots of different directions in terms of books. So I think when I first read The Name of the Rose, I probably hadn't read any Sherlock Holmes. So the first Sherlock Holmes I read is this Holmes pastiche, this medieval Holmes pastiche. And then it starts talking about other books within it, because it's all about books. Lots of his books have lots of books in them. Something like I think The Island of the Day Before, or Bordellino, that's got Sir John Mandeville in it, or basically the same creatures that Sir John Mandeville describes. Sort of the people with the faces in their chests, and weird and wonderful creatures around in the uncharted parts of the globe. Prester John, all of these ideas. I think the amount of ideas I first came across from reading Umberto Eco novels is probably a fairly high proportion.
Yeah, you would. Yeah. And I'd already knew Sherlock Holmes, so that was the draw for me for the film. And then what they were doing in the film was only sparkling of what's in the book, but it was enough to make me want to search out the book. And you mentioned the John Mandeville, because we've been talking a little bit about or at least I've been mentioning the Voyages Extraordinaire, because I'm reading a history of science fiction. So that we haven't got to that yet in the book, but I'm sure he's going to talk about Mandeville, and that's just trippy stuff. It's trippy because somebody with faces in their chest and talking, and people that are just feet, basically. I think it's another one that they're just feet.
They turn up in the Echo book as well.
Yeah, that I haven't read that one, so definitely I do want to read more of his. And I haven't read the one you got there,
Foucault's Pendulum.
Yeah, I haven't read that one.
And then when I visited Paris, I went to I think it's the Pantheon, and they've got Foucault's Pendulum there, and that's nice to see as well.
I've not seen that copy of it. I like the cover of that one.
This is it's a Picador one. Like I said, I either had either got it from the library, or I had another version of it before. One of the two. But this is 1989 by the looks of it.
I had because the hardcover.
It's signed as well. Unfortunately, it's signed by someone called John.
Oh. I had a first edition hardcover in Canada, because they printed so many of them, so they were like remaindered everywhere, and they were like, it was sort of. I think the trick would have been the collector would have been to get not a first edition, then it would have been the rare edition. That's how it would have worked out.
Because Pendulum, it feeds into the whole sort of conspiracy theory thing as well. I don't understand. Well, I sort of do understand why it's not more popular, because it's not massively plot heavy, but it talks about the ideas a lot more.
Have you seen, or has anybody else seen? There's a video on YouTube of Umberto Eco when he was alive, walking through his library, and it's just amazing. And then there's other interviews where he's doing in there or something, and he's sort of like, oh, these are the books I've written. It's like a whole wall of them, or these are the books that are that are real, that are in focus, like and this is the real stuff that Dan Brown doesn't even know about, and he just had an amazing, or several libraries actually, I think several places.
Well, I mean, there's that whole side of his writing, because he is a proper academic and scholar. So he is a semiotician, which obviously lends itself really well to the books. But I think I've read Travels in Hyperreality, but I think that's the only one.
I've not read any of the sustained academic ones, but I love his essays. I love his collections of essays. They are
Travels with a Salmon. Is that him?
That's a fabulous one. And there's, I think it's in there that there's one about him going into a library, and it's sort of like, and then he wants to go out to eat or something like that, and he's got to give all of his books back. And like he can't. He's just like, he just can't believe what he's got to do in order to get some sustenance. It's just, definitely that. It's too bad. Jason Harrigan was going to do a read through of all his stuff a couple of years ago before he gave up his channel, and a lot of people were sort of going to do it, but I won't be doing. I don't even want to attempt something like that, or even join anything. But the Dickens one, definitely. I think we can do that.
I thought the Echo one would be easier. There's less books and they're shorter.
Less books, yeah, but I suppose so. Yeah, okay, you twisted my arm. We'll talk. As BookTube, we'll talk. The possibility,
because there is one Echo novel I've not read yet, and I don't have that, which I think is The Prague Cemetery. It's the only one I haven't got.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't think too highly of that one for some reason. I don't know why, but I get that impression.
I mean, he can be a little bit indulgent, so it depends on what the kind of thing he is indulging in is. I can imagine someone who has no interest in pulp literature not really liking The Mysterious Flame of Queen Loana, because that is very discursive about all of that.
Yeah, I really love that one. That's that one. I think in some ways I liked it a little more than Name of the Rose. I think it's not as well written or anything like that, or complex, but just as pure enjoyment. I think I enjoyed it more. So, are we going to have 3B here now, or?
You're lucky. I think everything else you know about, but I'm going to show a book by the same author. So not that this is not the book I've chosen, but just for illustration purposes, Frederick Brown. So this is Project Jupiter, but the book I've chosen is What Mad Universe. I found out very late in the day before starting this channel that there was a podcast called What Mad Universe.
Oh.
Which was a bit annoying, because I had already set up my YouTube channel and that's what it was going to be called. So I had to choose another name for the channel instead. But that was originally going to be the name of the channel, is What Mad Universe. Frederick Brown, I probably had read the book 6 months or so before I started the channel. And after sort of a good 18 months of reading a lot of pulp science fiction, and something just clicked with that book. It still surprises me that something that was written in the 1940s is that ahead of its time in the ideas it's putting forward. Not technological ideas, not super science ideas, but that alternate reality and that playfulness, that playing with the textuality of pulp fiction, and to have it in 150-page space opera is just fantastic. So after I did my literature degree, I went off and did a degree in post-modernity. So this is the kind of thing that tickles me. I did a master's in Cardiff, and to be honest, by the end of that master's degree, I pretty much rejected a lot of the critical and cultural theory part of it as being either too difficult or just silly. But postmodernism in literature is something I can still very much enjoy. And although this What Mad Universe is written before all this postmodern movement, I think you could almost go down the list and tick the boxes. Is that, yeah, he does this, yes, he does this, and yes, he does this, and I think it would qualify. If that was written in the 60s or the 70s, it wouldn't be out of place. And I think in a way it's timeless because he is just playing with these ideas rather than being dead serious, or serious in inverted commas about it.
Yeah. Well, he's definitely, I guess, funny may not be the right word, but he's definitely humorous, and there are points of when I've read some of his stuff that I have laughed out loud because I know exactly what he's referring to, but it's not sort of belly laughs. He's not doing it so much as a punchline. It's a lot more than that, and he's very crafty at doing it. And I think this was his first science fiction book too. I think.
Really? Okay, that's even better.
I think it was his first science fiction book. Like I'm sure he'd written some short science fiction. He's better known for his mysteries, his mysteries, and he also wrote the episode of Star Trek, the Arena. Yeah, and then that goes right back to our Simac.
Did he write? He didn't write Arena, did he? I think they had. I think someone pretty much copied it and then decided that they actually had to pay him some money.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know there was the connection. I thought it was based on his story, but I guess in a way it was, but not legally.
Yeah, then I think they realized that actually this really is based off his story. That's I'm pretty sure he's not down as the writer, but he was given a check.
Yeah, and like, I can't remember when that was written, but it was definitely after Cosmic Engineers. So it's like, again, it's interesting. Scott Danielson talks about that there was a time where science fiction writers had a sort of conversation with each other, a dialogue, where they would borrow stuff from each other, and that came up in an essay that Scott and I were reading by Alexi and Corey Panshin, and he was saying that authors do this, but in any other genre, they'd be suing each other for plagiarism, but in science fiction, it's a given, and they do that.
There was a lawsuit. Harlan Ellison and Harlan Ellison and Ben Bova. So Harlan Ellison had written a story that was in Analog, which was at that point being edited by Ben Bova. And it was about a robotic cop.
Yeah.
And Harlan Ellison, the story went down very well. Harlan Ellison tries to sell it to a load of studios, or at least a couple of studios. He gets a rejection from this guy, I think is at Paramount. Nope, we don't want it. 4 months later, Paramount are producing this TV program called Future Cop about a robotic cop. And Harlan Ellison, being Harlan Ellison, basically says, right, I'm going to sue you. I think he was probably talked down to, no, we're going to sue him rather than you go around with your knuckle dusters. But decides to sue this film stroke television executive. And it goes to court. And the film company tried to say, well, actually, you stole this idea from The Caves of Steel by Asimov. And Harlan Ellison goes, well, I've known Isaac for 25 years. Let's get him in here. And basically, they produced Isaac Asimov as a witness. He says, no, it's not. And he ends up, Ellison and Bova, between them, get a check for $300,000 or whatever dollars from the film company for they really did just steal the whole idea for this TV series.
Well, that's Paramount, and Paramount are notorious for doing that. They did that with Babylon 5. That when Straczynski went in to pitch it, they kept it for a little while. I said, no, we're going to do our own, and then they do DS9, and you're going
Deep Space Nine, exactly.
Wait a minute. So they've got a track record for that. Loves Gareth saying love stories like that. Rod Serling trod a thin line with Twilight Zone adapting stories. Yeah.
There's one. Is it Ellison again? Ellison wrote something which basically they lifted for the Terminator.
Yeah.
I think he wrote that for Twilight Zone, and he ended up getting another check for that. Yeah. I think Ellison got like so much money for not writing lots of Hollywood scripts, but coming up with the ideas and then just getting litigious.
Well, yeah, he definitely was. Like what I was saying that science fiction writers don't. He's the rule, or he's the exception that proves the rule. But then you also got A.E. Van Vogt with The Black Destroyer and Alien. I don't know what they settled out of court, but I don't know how much it was. But I think he got a nice check for that one. So they have sued, but I think especially in the golden age and stuff, they really didn't do that much.
No, and I should imagine
from it's the Outer Limits one. It was
okay, Outer Limits then.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And the Outer Limits did something for Simak too, and it came up at the end of the episode. He watched it, and then he saw his name, and he goes, "They stole my story. That's not what I wrote."
I suppose were you paid for it? There you go. Yeah. I got it wrong.
Yeah, I wasn't sure which one that was, but sue them after they make the product, not while they're making it. Good advice. Demon with the gun. Oh, that's a fabulous one with Robert Culp. Robert Culp? Yeah, Robert Culp. Where it's like, I think that's the one I'm thinking of where he's being chased, and it's very low budget. He's being chased in a darkened warehouse, and he's got like all the humanity in his body, like on a string or something like that, or a wire. If my memory serves, it's so long since I saw that. I think that's the one. It's a fabulous one. There's just some great stuff from that. But yeah, Frederick Brown. I was saying before, I think it's NESFA, the New England Science Fiction Association, have put out I think his mystery stories, I think, or his crime stories in 2 volumes, maybe 3. I think it might be just called Soldier. The other one, oh, it's got yeah. Love that Gavin picked Frederick Brown. Yeah, as I was saying, you don't see him talked about anymore. He's one of these sort of not forgotten writer, but a lot of people haven't picked him up and haven't read him much.
And he's another one who can write very short stories.
Yeah.
I mean, I read his, what's it called? Nightmares in Geese and Stacks, which is like a horror anthology. Some of those are half a page. And generally they're around 3-4 pages. Really, really quick vignettes. I mean, difficult to even sort of call them short stories sometimes, but very, very spare, but able to get across a lot of information.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's what I was saying. Like when we do the we read for Heinlein. What was the short story? The Menace from Earth. Those were just fabulous short stories, and there's really a short one that's only a page and a half long. Is Columbus was a dope, and I think it's just a fabulous little short story because it does what a short story should do, and it just it has a great title as well. Columbus was a dope, or dupe, or dope, I think it is. Yeah.
And historically accurate.
Gavin saying Frederick Brown is talked about on book 2, but it isn't stocked in the shops. Like, okay, I've just never seen anybody mention him on book 2. I'm glad there is. Yeah, that's the thing. This stuff he's not reprinted that much, other than in just these like Nest for Press. You can't go in and buy a paperback of him. Yeah, I don't think he's in the. Why he's not in the Golan's Masters of Science Fiction, I don't know why. I don't think he's in there. I don't think he's in there.
That's an oversight.
Yeah, he should be in there. There's some in there that I scratch my head and going, why are they in there? And he definitely should be in there. But yeah. No, that's good. I definitely haven't come across him, so I'm glad he is. And there's other ones like you're discovering so many by doing your planet stories, and some authors that are in there wrote 1 or 2 stories, and they're just absolutely completely forgotten, and then others wrote a handful and still forgotten.
There's people I've come across. It's like when I do those sort of Planet Stories deep dives, it's like, well, let's talk about this writer a little bit. And sometimes it's like, yeah, I've got nothing. Yeah. I have no idea if it's a pseudonym sometimes, which they often are. When I did for Garb August last year, I did a spicy pulp. And I literally couldn't find anything about any of the writers. I think all of them were pseudonyms. I think no one wanted to be known as writing this. And I just couldn't find information.
See, this is the thing where sometimes the internet falls down, because some of this stuff is available in reference books, but you have to get to those reference books. And not everything is put on Wikipedia, because it has to be somebody has an interest to put this stuff on. And the same as the internet speculative database, that it's great for some writers, but then other writers are very sketchy, and stuff is not sure, because they're sort of, again, almost forgotten, and nobody's gets the interest to put this information on there.
No one is backing the internet up, and no one is refreshing the internet. I mean, yeah. I'm not going to get political on your thing, but ABC News in the last week has shut down. Well, they bought 538.com, which is this big sort of polling company concern. So they bought them, and basically they made them their in-house pollsters. They decided last week to shut it. I was like, okay, all right, that's a business decision. I get it. But then they've closed off the website, and basically a quarter of a century's worth of polling data has disappeared. So you can go in, you can go to a library, and you can find out about stuff that happened 150, 200, 250 years ago.
Yeah.
You will not now be able to find out what was happening in 2008. Now, okay, it's living memory for us, but it's not going to be for someone in 50, 60, 70 years' time. There's just going to be a big black hole where the internet was before it became whatever the internet's going to end up being.
Yeah, well, it's same as even the science fiction stuff, and it's not stuff that was created to be put on the internet. It's just it hasn't been there because I've got some reference stuff with some about pseudonyms. They're not exhaustive, or some biographical information in some other volumes that I have. And I've noticed, I've read that and I go, oh, I wonder if somebody else, and they don't exist on the internet as far as, at the time. They're not anywhere. So there are still things, again, for some reason, are not getting put on. You can find the text to some of these. Like I sent you some links to a few places where there's, they've got the text of some of these volumes on, but they're not searchable. You get on the page, and then you maybe on search page, but they're not, for some reason, they're not brought up in search with Google or other search engines. And I don't know why. Maybe it's because the way that they made the sites, because most of these sites were done in the 90s, early 90s, and they have that look to them.
Yeah, we need to get you out of that GeoCities rut.
Yeah.
But this is the kind of thing that these silly AI engines should be searching for.
Yeah, and they don't.
And they don't.
I was searching for something. I put in the term novelizations of radio plays or radio drama. So the AI comes up and says what that is. It's a novelization from a radio play. Fine. And they give examples. Like H.G. Wells wrote his novel War of the Worlds from Orson Welles' radio play. And it's like, you've just slipped a whatever AI. It's like,
well, my AI says it was Basil Wells. I don't know what you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's a writer again that there's not much on, and I think that the links that I sent you had more information on there than you probably found other places, but you didn't find those pages in your searches.
Yeah,
because I knew where to look for that. And because I don't have the books that it's referring to, but I knew where it was. I knew where some of this stuff was. And for some reason, and the all those fanzines, that stuff, it's like, I would love to be able to have a search engine on those fanzines. When you got 500,000 fanzines, you want to search them.
Yeah, I think you used to have, the search engines used to be better. You now have the algorithmic search engine. So it is just giving you what people want, which isn't what you want, because you're not people, you're a person. And we're going to move away from that next to AI, which is just going to make crap up because it wants to please you, or it's been programmed to do so.
Well, Gareth says here, which, it could very well be, once AI becomes what people rely on, history will be rewritten with mistakes like that. And it could very well, because people compound mistakes even without the AI. They will copy stuff. You see pictures that have a caption on saying it's so and so, and it's everywhere. Like I noticed this with Louise Brooks, and it's like, that's not Louise Brooks, but you see that picture everywhere that people are saying that that's Louise Brooks.
Yeah. And I mean, and that sort of thing is going to get worse as well, because you now have had 18 months, 2 years of people generating pictures. So they're typing in. So they want to do something a bit Art Deco.
Yeah.
So they say, show me pictures of flappers doing a Charleston on the deck of the Hindenburg. And it will relay that photo. But now when someone else is after something in a couple of years' time, it's not going to search for original photos from the 1920s. It's only going to pick up on the previous mismatch of slop that has turned up before. So we're now going to be getting derivative pictures of made up pictures. It's going to get very messy. No one's going to know what's up or down.
Well, I want a picture of my library room or my living room and have a picture of Louise Brooks lounging in there. So I want that on internet for eternity. That is my library, and Louise Brooks is lounging in it reading my books. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, but I shouldn't be able to then search something that says Louise Brooks. Can you find me a picture of Louise Brooks sitting in Sean's library reading? And it gives me that fake picture as if it was, real. Actuality.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, it's not only a TARDIS, my library room, it's also a time machine. Wait a minute. I might have stolen something there. We better stop there on that part. Let's go on to the next book.
Next book. So again, this isn't exactly the edition, but this is the Cthulhu Mythos. So I've put like the complete H.P. Lovecraft. This is the nearest I've got to it. And I'm doing that because I like what I've read, but I have not read all of it yet. He's an acquired taste. It took me a little while. And when I first started reading, I thought, he's trying a little bit too hard. But after a few stories, I really got drawn into it. It's just like, this is really unsettling stuff. I was a horror reader when I was young. And I think that was the thrill of being able to get something like James Herbert from the library. I was finally old enough. I had my adult library card. Well, I'm going to get, James Herbert or a Stephen King or something. Maybe a Clive Barker.
Let's screw everybody up here for the algorithm. James Herbert is Frank Herbert's lesser-known brother.
And he's cousin of Johnny Herbert, the Formula One driver.
Exactly.
Those were fun. Then I sort of grew out of them. Now I've grown back into them a little bit now, but that sort of gory horror sort of lost its appeal for me. Cosmic horror, just as like, oh, okay, I can still be a bit scared by horror. And I came to Lovecraft late. It took me a while, but I really sort of am enjoying it now. And then the more I'm reading about the legacy and how important he is to everything from horror, fantasy, science fiction, almost all the genres that I like. Haven't got a Lovecraft Western, but I'm sure someone has done it. There is something just sort of deeply unsettling about what he's writing about. Not necessarily how he's writing. The language is very, sometimes over the top, flowery. Nasty flowers, but flowery. He's a stylist. It took me a while to get into, but now I'm there. I'm sort of really enjoying it, and I want to read the whole lot, please. So I think the Desert Island is a great place to sort of have the time to give him the time that he needs.
I read him early, and he never really clicked with me much for me to continue. So I have not read him in probably 40 plus years. And I want to. I have the annotated. I think I'm pretty sure it's Leslie Klinger that did the annotated ones. And I figure if when I do sit down and read him again, that's how I'm going to do it. And I know I haven't read them all. I read it all, so I should actually read them before I do the annotated. But this time, I think I'm going to do this approach is to start out with the annotated ones. And what do you think of other people doing cosmic horror? And I always coming back to Simak, but the Hell Helens of the Cosmos. I thought that was a good example of cosmic horror.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's. I had this when I was looking at Sword and Sorcery a few weeks ago. So Sword and Sorcery really was just a province of Robert E. Howard, but he died early. And the fact that he died meant that other people could, I can write Sword and Sorcery. I can write about my barbarians now and not be basically treading on his toes or, being seen as a knockoff. You had that with Lovecraft. And I think you needed to have that with Lovecraft. Again, Lovecraft died sort of, relatively early. But I mean, for someone who seemed like in some ways, such a nasty guy, he always seemed to be quite gregarious with other writers, very generous as well. And I'm sure he probably wouldn't have minded people hopping on the Mythos bus, but the fact that people did actually kickstarted a lot of the modern horror genre stuff and helped a lot with science fiction publishing as well. I think these books, if they had just stayed the domain of Lovecraft or Howard, would have just gone into a cul-de-sac. This would have been their thing. You can't do my thing. And we might be down a very different path these days.
Well, like with Arkham Press and August Derleth, that definitely has made, I think are a big part of it making Lovecraft immortal in many ways. And it also helped create a want and a door opening for that kind of publishers as well. Like,
it showed there was a market for it.
Yeah. There were other ones at the time, but definitely Arkham. I say Arkham Press, Arkham House, definitely was the one that really, I think, took off more than other ones like Shasta or Fantasy Press. Like those sort of were there, and Gnome Press, and look back on nostalgically, but I think at the time they weren't quite as up there with the reputation that Arkham House sort of did, even though I know there's, like Michael K. Vaughan talks about, there's issues with the stuff that they did, or the publishing and the text that they used for Lovecraft. But that's a separate matter, I think, for that.
Yeah, I think you've probably got to make excuses that they were pretty much on a shoestring, and if it wasn't for Derleth's earnings elsewhere, these books weren't getting published anyway.
Yeah. Jenny's saying, James Herbert, that's an author that she knows, and the book thing's getting in on it. Stephen King is B.B. King's brother. Yeah, that works. And James and Frank were related. Yeah, just like James and Frank. There's James, Frank, and Jesse, wasn't there too? There was the three brothers, weren't they? There was, or is it Jesse? Yeah, there was a James. No, there wasn't a. You're
James. Thinking of Jesse James.
Yeah, Jesse James. Yeah,
Jesse James Herbert.
Close enough. That's their great grandpa. They write very different books, and Clive Barker is the cousin of Ronnie Barker. I think you're right. Other people taking up the style makes them live longer, like cover versions. Yeah, it definitely does, and they were doing it at the time, like I say, because like the mentioning the hellhounds of the cosmos is not the Cthulhu mythos, but it is his sort of, I guess, toe in cosmic horror, which was in the milieu. There were other people trying that kind of thing, and obviously some that were writing specifically Cthulhu. I'm pronouncing that wrong for some reason. My brain tells me, but that's all I can do at the moment. So yeah, so there it definitely does cosmic horror. I think Lovecraft was canonically scientifically literate.
I think, well, I mean, he was basically able to give horror scope. I mean, horror always used to be, we're trapped in a house, we're trapped here, or there's something closing in on us. Where he's gone completely the other way. He's saying, right, the horror is we are a speck in some horrible, uncaring, well, not
Universe.
uncaring, just I'll say uncaring, just in a void.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily, or at least my impression is that it's not necessarily evil. It's not malevolent. It's not. It's just it is like the universe. Sometimes is this is the way it is.
That was the word I was looking for.
Yeah,
they aren't out to get you. They're not aware of you at all.
Jenny asked, "Do you think the original authors, artists, etc., feel bad if covers pastiches remake are more popular than the original?"
Not if they're dead.
Harlan Ellison probably still is. Like he's been dead for how long, but he's probably
still angry.
Yeah, he's still angry.
Well, I mean, Conan Doyle was quite protective of Holmes to begin with,
but there were lots of parallel ones that they didn't do it. There was who did the it's basically Holmes, but it's a different name, and I can't think of who the
Solar Ponds.
Yes, that's it. Yeah,
back to August Derleth.
Yes. Oh yeah, it is August Derleth. Yeah, I couldn't. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, so like that clearly was Holmes.
He had written for permission and had been refused.
So screw you! I'm going to do this anyway.
Well, there's nothing to stop you doing that but there people actually wanted to use the character name, and he didn't let many people do it. So I've been reading a lot of John Kendrick Bangs recently, and he let Bangs use Holmes, and he used him twice so far that I've read books that I've read.
Okay.
Because he used Sherlock Holmes in one of his the Bangsian fantasy. So basically, everyone's dead. I mean, we were talking about this the other day.
Yeah.
And normally, Conan Doyle wouldn't let people use Sherlock Holmes as a character, but he'd fallen out of love with Sherlock Holmes by that point, and Sherlock Holmes was canonically dead. So this is before he'd brought him back. And he said, "Oh yeah, you can use him." So he's actually he's in Hades. he's literally dead at that point. But generally, you didn't let people. I mean, you wouldn't if you want to write something that's a little bit of a homage to the type of character or a proper pastiche with another name. You can't stop someone doing that. Yeah. But if you've got a specific intellectual property, you want to be protectors of that. Perhaps they're worried it could be really, really bad.
Yeah,
probably more worried it could be really, really good.
But then after a while, like people like once the author's dead, and it's a free for all. Anybody can do it, and some people obviously are doing it better than others. Jose Varmer. I think he's done every popular character that was ever written. I'm exaggerating here a bit, but probably not by
Not
far.
by much.
And yeah, but there was, even at the time, like, Sexton Blake. Like, there were so many that, because it was a commodity. Holmes was a commodity. All these things, like H.P. Lovecraft is a commodity, so people like it. So they're writing similar things. It may not be the Cthulhu, mythos specifically, but it's just lightly veiled. It is. It's
From the same universe,
Yeah.
I mean, Lovecraft was coming up with new ones all the time.
Yeah.
There was, but there was a world there as well. There is a fictional bibliography. There are writers that he refers to who, some of them don't exist, some of them might exist. There's wrote about the Necronomicon, which is a book that didn't exist and yet now does exist because someone actually went and wrote it.
And I bought that like so long ago, and I thought that was so cool. I knew it was like fake, but it was really cool how that was done. It was really good. That was cool. It's been a fantastic, but I've got to go. I'll catch you. Thanks for stopping by. One Eldritch god is as good as another. So let's move on. I'm not sure what number we're on now.
Does it matter much anymore?
No, I guess not. But then don't slip in anymore.
No, we're getting to the big ones now. So you might not know this, but there's a BBC show called Desert Island Discs. And
really,
and you have to choose records, and you get books thrown in for free, and you get this as just as a given. So as we don't have this, I'm choosing him specifically. I don't know how I could not.
Sorry. It's Jenny's fault. Jenny's being smutty.
But I haven't finished it yet. I've read some of the sonnets, but not all of them. I haven't read the longer poems. There's probably 7 or 8 plays that I've not yet read. But, for a reread, I would happily read any of these again, pretty much at a drop of a hat. I'm not here to sell Shakespeare. I think, he's stood the test of time, but I would not be without it. If this was just down to one book, this would be the one that's coming.
I've not read them all either. I've read a good portion, and I've said it over and over. My favorite is so far is Macbeth. What's your favorite play of what you've read so far?
I reckon either King Lear or Richard III. I think Richard III has the frenetic action. I think King Lear has the language. I think there is just so much. It is really powerful, that piece. He is the most tragic of the tragic figures because he really just does it to himself.
I try to put, because like I say, I've a lot of people take Shakespeare, so it's hard for me not to repeat myself for stuff. But I think this was because I had been to Stratford upon Avon several times, and they got his house there. They do a tour and stuff like this, and this was at Christmas, and they do a nice, really cool light show where the people are there's actors that open up the windows and say something, but there's like a visual thing on the outside wall and everything. That's cool. But you also get to I think it was his daughter's house. But it was also a house that the people who sort of what was the name of them now? The director, I guess, of the theater would stay, and like Anthony Quayle, was there. I think it was Anthony Quayle, not Anthony Quinn. I get them mixed up, but I'm not sure. I think it was Anthony Quayle. So he lived there for a little while, and it's just a beautiful house to walk through, and it still looks like it's 500 years old. There's no modern amenities in it, which is just so cool for that. And the other thing too was, I'm not sure I mentioned, because what's his name? What's the actor's name that was he played Pie in the Sky? Richard Griffiths.
Richard Griffiths.
He lived outside of Stratford upon Avon, and he died shortly before I went there. And I had a shorter beard, and with glasses, so many times people had mistaken me for Richard Griffiths. And so that happened a lot of times. And I don't think I've told this story, where the one place I'm sitting in a pub having a pint, and people come in and they're pointing at me and stuff like this. And I said, "That's what," and he goes, "No, he's dead." And he goes, "Well, he's looking pretty good for being dead."
Well, it's nice to hear, isn't it?
Yes. So yeah, it's hard to add something to that, because everybody's doing the Shakespeare. So, but yeah, it's. Is there any? Have you seen the plays, or have you been to a play of both those, the King Lear and?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I saw Henry Goodman play Richard III, and I saw Robert Stevens as King Lear. That was really good. That had Simon Russell Beale was in it. Oh God, so this is going back decades now. So Robert Stevens is Toby Stevens's father. It had David Bradley as the Duke of Gloucester, so he's the one with the vile jelly. That was really good. I've seen a few Macbeths as well. I saw Macbeth 2 years ago at Stratford, but previously I've seen Derek Jacobi.
Oh, that would be
that was good. And in the same year, I saw. Oh God, what's his name? Oh no, that's going to bug me. It's on the tip of my tongue. It's Avon from Blake Seven. Paul.
Oh yes, I know who you mean. Paul. Yeah. Gareth might know, or somebody can look it up. Yeah, somebody look it up on the net and then let us know.
So he was playing Macbeth. It wasn't the best production in the world, but I tell you what, he played it as if he was Avon.
That's a bit scary. Well, when I was in Stratford upon Avon, I forget. I think it was Hamlet, possibly. I think it was Hamlet, and it was David Tennant that was playing. He was doing that. I think it was, but if it wasn't Hamlet, then it was some other play. But he was doing it. But the tickets were all over the place.
They usually are when it's. We tried to get to see him as Macbeth. He was playing at a very small theatre in London, and the tickets were gone within minutes, and then they were being resold for multiple hundreds of pounds. So no, unfortunate, but no.
I always go back to the Orson Welles Macbeth that I love, but also too, just Shakespeare related, is there's two titles for it: The Chimes at Midnight, and I forget the other name, with Orson Welles, and it's got what's her name that played Miss Marple in the 60s films?
Rutherford.
Yeah, she's on there, and amazing actress, like in this film, and you get to see Orson Welles do slapstick a little bit. you don't expect it. But it's a fabulous film, and it's very Shakespearean in many ways. And I think Gielgud is in there too. Gielgud, I'm sure it was Gielgud that was playing King John, possibly. I can't remember now, but it's there. It is. Yeah, Paul Darrow.
Darrow, yeah.
Yeah. So let's go back here. Jenny says, I really need to read Shakespeare. Never read a single one. Yeah.
September, Shake-tember.
Yeah. You just need to read one. And it's just like, and I should do that as well every September, add something that I haven't read, but I haven't been doing that. Class Warfare, Shakespeare versus Dickens.
There's something, I've read about 3 books in the last year, all of which cast doubt on Shakespeare actually having written Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And I think that is a class argument. I think no one wants to admit that something so amazing, something so literary can be written by a mere grammar school boy. And therefore it has to be the Earl of Oxford, or it has to be Bacon, or...
Well, the best portrayal of Shakespeare that there ever has been in fiction. We just read this in January.
That was one of the books, one of the 3 books that cast aspersions on it.
But he did it so well. Jenny asks, which one is easier to read, Callum? I haven't read Dickens. Well, if we do a read along, it'll be Sketches with Boz, which could be a good one to start because they're short pieces, they're humorous, and they're journalistic style. Yeah, they're journalistic to a certain extent. So that could be a good place if you wanted to start along with us whenever we do it. Hannah's here. So glad I could get here before you made
Hannah?
the island. Hey, Hannah. Jenny, reading Shakespeare is easier to read after reading Robert E. Howard. So yeah, but yeah, we'll talk about the Dickens thing at some point, I'm sure. Well, if Debs wants to do it, she's probably long gone. Everybody's probably in bed, but I'm having too much fun.
Debs has probably finished the first book already.
Yeah. So is the next the one I'm thinking?
There's one more before the one you're thinking of, but we won't spend a lot of time on this one, I don't think, because again, I've not read it, and this is one that I had to have some non-fiction. And if it's non-fiction, I want it to be history.
Yeah.
And if I'm stuck on an island, I want it to be a biggie. I am not religious, but this is your way in to understand a lot of history. It's, how long is it? It's not as much as I thought. It's only 1,100 pages, but I say only. It feels more than that. But because I like my history and I usually don't read anything sort of ecclesiastical, I think this would be a really good way in to learn a lot about European history. I will want to find out what happened at the Diet of Worms or Worms or whatever it was called, and probably probably a key to understanding a lot of the wars that have happened in the last 1,000 years or so.
I definitely want to read that myself. I don't have a copy. I want to get a nice hard copy like that. So let's put that on a future read together then, because I want to read that as well. And I haven't. I've read some other stuff by McDermott, and it's been fabulous. He's a fabulous writer. So I have no doubt that this is going to be as good.
He didn't do too badly on Christmas University Challenge either.
Oh, was he on there? Oh, okay.
He was on there. And not only was he on there, it turned out he was actually the captain of his university team sort of like decades before.
Oh, okay. So he's got form.
Yeah.
Gareth saying Paul Darrow, damn, that's big enough to hunt with.
Well, this is or, a shelter or a raft or something.
Or I'm gonna say, if there's any Christians on the island, you can kill them with that book. Oh, all of a sudden, people are gonna go crazy now.
So yeah, I'm I like my history books, and like I said, not religious, but you know what? I like going around. I like going around a church. I'm not religious. I love picking these bits up, and you get a vibe for the history.
I'm not religious either, but I've taken so many courses on medieval Christianity, ancient Christianity. I spent however many years doing biblical Hebrew, all this stuff, and I love reading this stuff. And it's like I used to read, and Mark, if Mark Richardson is still here too, it's like we sort of compare stuff we read, like the there's the Dead Sea Scrolls stuff and like all that kind of stuff, and like the original manuscripts of things. It's just I just love it. And I've gotten away from reading all that, and that's where I want that. And I don't really want anything else on my shelf because I don't have that much space. That's going to take up enough, and that's good enough. That'll encompass everything that I want.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I think it's probably. I don't have loads of sort of theological stuff on my shelves, but I did think I might be having occasion to read this shortly as well. That looks like quite fun.
Okay,
That
yeah.
looks like more of a fun read. I think probably not all fun, but there are some proper characters.
I remember going to a university. It was actually, I think, Waterloo University. They had a little book sale, and they were pulling stuff off the shelves. And I bought like a 20-some volume history of the popes. I never got finished it, but it was an ex-library copy. But it was from 18 something, and it was literally 20-some volumes, and each volume was 400-ish pages. So there was a lot of popes there.
Yeah, and I should imagine a fair amount of hagiography as well.
Yeah,
You
but
really need to
they
have
got
your.
into the other things of the popes that apparently gave birth, and things like that. So some other
Well,
interesting ones.
it's the ones that were sort of picked because they are, from the right family, like the mercantile families from Florence and all of that sort of stuff. There's whole parts of it there's pretty tawdry, and I think you probably need to have the right kind of writer with enough of a detachment about it, but the right level of detachment. You don't want someone who's coming along just to take the mick, but you also don't want someone who believes that these people are infallible.
Yeah, well, that's what this sort of was, because when they did get into that, it was sort of like, well, these are the stories that we told, but we don't know, we're not sure if this really happened. And it's like, so he covered this stuff, but it was fun. Like I think I got about eight volumes into it before I stopped. And I don't think I ever would have finished it, but it was just.
Then you realize there was like a 6-volume supplementary series of the anti-popes.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I bet there was. Yeah. Wouldn't be surprised. So let's get to the piece de resistance.
I was saving this one to the end. I think it's the biggest book, but yeah, I will not want to be without my encyclopedia of science fiction.
Second
I
edition.
can't say I've read this cover to cover, and I won't read this cover to cover, but I will always find something in here, and I think this is the perfect kind of book for a desert island, because I will be able to look for something that will interest me. I will be able to look for something that will remind me of books that I have read, and stuff that will just lead me down. I will be completing a very long TBR in my spare time on the desert island, and this is the book that's going to help me to do it. I should imagine it's comprehensive, or as comprehensive as it can be up until whenever this edition came out. But me,
was it?
This is 1999.
Yeah.
So yeah, all the science fiction up until the year 2000 that will do.
And here's the first edition that it was done of it in late 70s. Let's look at the date of that one. 79. And yeah, it's fabulous. And John Clute, Peter Nichols is fabulous as well. But John Clute, I love. But then, there's times that I read there, and I'm arguing with him. That's what. At times I'm going, no, that's not right. It's an opinion thing, but he's not. And it's not totally all written by him. There, each entry, there's dozens and dozens of writers in here. But occasionally, I do like his writing and his reviews. But yeah, at times it's like, where did you come with this idea? Which is good, because I never would have thought that, and I don't agree with it. But I just love the style of this, because they expand it, and they also, or he did, John Clute, and it was somebody else, I can't remember who, that did the fantasy one as well. But they've moved on to the internet, because first there was the third edition online that was at the Galaxy Gateway, and then that left that, and it's got its own domain now. So they call it the fifth edition, and it's continually updated online. So a lot of people say, well, why bother with having a book that size?
Because when you're searching online, you are looking for something. When you are looking for a book, something will find you.
Exactly. So I start out with this and a few other encyclopedias I have, and then I will eventually wind up on the internet to see if there's anything else. And usually I always find that the information is lacking on the internet. But generally the if I go to the Encyclopedia of Science Fiction site, I do sometimes get a little more, because the file may have been updated a little bit. But that's about it, because everywhere else is drawing from it. Booksellers draw from it. When you see a description, the Encyclopedia of Science Fiction says this about it, or they'll use Neil Barron's Anatomy of Wonder. They'll reference that. So there's few key things, and that's definitely a key resource. And Gareth, I'm assuming Gareth has a copy. Yeah, and if anybody wants it, there's billions of copies out there. From literally from a couple pounds for even a rough copy, ex-library, which, as long as it has all the information, that's all you need, to 20 pounds or 30 pounds.
I think mine was £3.
Yeah, I actually have two of them. As I said, I'm decadent. I have one upstairs and I have one down here, so I don't have to go back and forth. When you're getting them for £3,
in encyclopedias and dictionaries and atlases, there are these trapped streets. Do you know if there are any in this?
Sorry, the what?
So what? On a map, the people who put maps together, and talking sort of road maps and stuff, they would have what are called trap streets, or trapped streets, where it stops people copying the work. They've made up something. And some encyclopedias and some dictionaries do the same thing. They'll put a made up word in there. So if anyone tries to copy the work as a whole, they can go, we'll look this up, or look for this street, and that's how you know that that's my fabrication. So you copied my work. I'm wondering if there's something in there, because
I'm not aware of it. There could be, because it's so big.
Oh, there is.
Yeah, I haven't. Maybe that's the thing where occasionally I see something and I'm going, that doesn't look right. maybe I have found it without realizing it's it. And I just thought, oh, this commentator and this person that writing this doesn't know what they're talking about. And yes, Jenny says it's not just a coffee book; it doubles as an actual coffee book or raft. You probably, well, it wouldn't really float very well, but yeah, I guess he has it. And the yellow one. Oh, if it's a paperback, yellow one. I'm not sure which one that is. I've got a number of them, and they're all a lot of times they're idiosyncratic at times for the author, and that can be really interesting. Like John Clute has put out an illustrated encyclopedia of science fiction, and then is it Nichols has put out the ultimate illustrated encyclopedia of science fiction. And then there's older ones that I've got, like I've got a number, and there's a couple more that I want to get. Like there's one by the Australian Rottensteiner, which is kind of interesting. It's idiosyncratic, as I say. And then there's Forey Ackerman did a short one, and it's again idiosyncratic for him, and they're interesting for those. I'm trying to think of the yellow one.
So that's two science fiction encyclopedias. Whoever puts encyclopedias together, who are Australian then, because Nichols is Australian, isn't he?
Yeah, and that's what they did this remotely. They never sort of got together to do it. They did this all remotely, and they started on this one because Clute does have, he's the associate editor, and then when they did the biggie. But this one's a little different because it's got photos in it as well, and it's 3 columns, so it doesn't look.
That's the Crowley.
No, that's
that's Peter Lorre.
It's Peter. That's from Mad Love. Oh, that's a warped one, and you can tell he's hyped up on heroin there, probably. He could have played Aleister Crowley pretty.
Well, I'm not sure I've seen him without any hair before, but just got no hair and a big stare. That's quite the Crowley pose.
Yeah, there's what's the other? There's a few other I was just trying to think editors that are pretty good, and I can't think of off the top of my head. But Peter Nichols definitely is the biggest one. Pringle is another one that's done sort of an encyclopedia type thing. Or no, that's probably the Pringles is the ultimate one, I think. Yeah, it's Pringles. He was was it who was the editor of the British science fiction magazine? It was Pringle, wasn't it? Or is it Nichols? No, it's Pringle.
No, that's Pringle.
Yeah. So he's done the ultimate like illustrated encyclopedia, and then he's done the ultimate fantasy encyclopedia as well. So they give
someone else having to do one, so that's quite good.
Yeah. So it's a fabulous piece of work, and I can't see any printed publication really surpassing this unless they just pull what's on the 5th edition the 5th edition online and print it, which they're not going to do.
No,
they're not going to do. And it's the same as this one that I mentioned, the Neil Barron. It's not an encyclopedia so much, but this is the 5th edition of Anatomy of Wonder. And it's just a guide. It's a bibliographical guide or a critical guide to science fiction. And it goes by eras, and there's a huge reference section, and then there's essays by different writers of periods, and they pick out for the fiction what whoever's doing it thinks that it's most representative of the fiction of that time, and then the same as reference material. And that's never going to see another edition, or so he says. Well, he's dead now, so that's not going to happen.
Is it Vandermeer doing some? I don't know if it's a full-on encyclopedia, but he's
Who?
something. Jeff Vandermeer. He does sort of big sort of history history of science fiction. I don't know how comprehensive they get. I was trying to think of
Oh,
people who are
sure.
still writing those big books.
I'm not sure. Well, Gary Westfall did a 3 volume, which I have. It's a thematic. It's basically a thematic encyclopedia, but for Greenwood. He did another one, I think. I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I've not seen that one. I'd be interested to.
I
To
have to
see
find
any of
out
it.
what it's called.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know he's done a few things, but yeah, I think they're the ones that are still coming out. A lot of them are the glossy like coffee table stuff. There's a lot of pictures in them, and they'll throw in some pulps, and they'll throw movie stills in and posters, and unless it's by an author that again that you want, like it's idiosyncratic of the author, just get something like this, and if it's an author you like, that's fine. That's the joy of reading it, even though you're not getting a deep reading in anything. You're getting the author that you're reading. That makes sense. So we're on to, dare I say, the music.
Well,
And I
yeah,
hope I hope I hope Gareth is still here.
this is where it got more. This is where it got difficult because I could choose 8. Well, I couldn't choose 8. I could choose 9. Making just the one choice was crazy. I could have chosen 800, but if I'm going to choose an album, I want something which is pretty much sort of cohesive, and I want something I can listen to all the time. And I wanted Kate Bush, Hounds of Love, and it's pretty much perfect as far as I can make out. There's not a lot to fault about it, and it shows her at the height of her powers, I think, and where she is really taking full control. She produces it. She writes it. She performs it. She's also doing all of the production herself. She is exploring new technology. She's one of the first people in the country to get one of the big sort of Fairlight samplers. And there's that big long German word for total artwork. It is pretty much that Gesamtkunstwerk, something like that. Everything about it, the packaging, the writing, the performance, the videos that go with it. I could go on about this. Donald Sutherland is in one. Donald Sutherland is in one of the videos. The whole second half of the album tells a continuous story. It gets picked up by the Stranger Things program a year or so ago, and goes one of the songs off it and goes to number 1 again, which makes Kate Bush the youngest ever solo artist to write and perform a number 1 single for the UK, and the oldest female artist to write a number 1 single for the UK. And it's scary and it's joyous, and yeah, that's it. That's all I can sell you on. If you don't buy that, then I don't know.
Well, I this is where I can't say anything about this, and let's just leave it at that. So yeah, I don't know if Gareth is still here, because Kate Bush was Gareth's pick too. I can't remember what album it was, but it was Kate
Oh, it
Bush.
might be the same. It might be the same album then.
Yeah, I can't remember which one it was. There's certain things I forget, and I'm okay with. Sorry.
You need to get on the Kate Bush train.
Someday, maybe.
I really tried to get tickets to see her when she did the first live shows in God knows how many years, and they went very, very quickly indeed. So
Well,
I'm not alone in thinking this.
well, everybody was going crazy when Oasis, came back. It was this, I guess, the
No,
same time.
sorry,
And it's but you see, the thing was like I didn't care about that. I like Stevie Nicks was going around, and I'm going, that's who I would want to see. I don't care if she's 70-something years old. I still want to see her on stage.
As much as I can say great things about Kate Bush for as long as you like, I could probably do exactly the opposite with Oasis. What a bunch of no hope wastrels.
Yeah, but it's just it went crazy for the tickets, and then it was like, but like I kept saying, but Stevie Nicks is live too. Stevie Nicks.
I've seen Oasis. I saw them when they played Glastonbury. I think they played Glastonbury twice in the 90s. By the second year they played, they were headlining the main stage. They had absolutely blown up and dominated everything. The year I saw them, I think I was waiting to see Teenage Fan Club or Echo Belly, and they were on beforehand. They're like the second band on, so people haven't had a proper drink yet. It's 11:30 in the morning. They were on. They were terrible. And I think they just released their first single, and they were just. They are a rock band that's never written a rock song. Everything is just slow. Sorry, I might lose you some people here, but certainly lose me some. I don't care. I don't want no Oasis fans.
Well, we are winding down, so we got the last thing is your luxury item, which I don't know, or at least I don't want to know, because sometimes I'm surprised.
I've tried to keep it simple. I would like pen and paper, please.
Okay.
Quite a lot of paper and a refillable pen, but I try to think of lots of sort of luxury things, and I think for almost any luxury item, it's got one or two uses. I think for pen and paper, you can do what you like to an extent. You can put together your next list. I can finally write out my TBR in long form. Yeah. I could write stories. I could do lots of things. My plan to get off the island, my plan for what I'll do if I'm staying there. And it would be, for want of someone to talk to, it'd be a good way of getting your thoughts out.
I can't remember what I think I chose pen and pen. It's like, but probably pencil rather than pen, because I if I didn't say this, I would have said because the ink would fade in the sunlight, so therefore I'd want the pencil. If I didn't say that, then I should have.
Okay, can I have one of those propelling pencils then?
Yeah.
I don't want to get there and then realize I don't have a pencil sharpener.
Oh yeah. That I probably didn't think of. But yeah, no, that's a good one. It's always like Hannah, as if people were watching right to the end, it was a sun sort of hat, a big brimmed hat, which
practical. I like that.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure it was Greg at Another Bibliophile Reads was toilet paper, or somebody's brought toilet paper.
So I can make a hat out of paper.
Yeah.
I can use the paper
You just have to crumble it up a lot and make it a little softer. This.
It'll be like I'm back at school.
Experience. Yeah, this is from experience. Newspapers okay, glossy magazines not so good. Mixes here. I saw Oasis at Nebworth. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Nebworth.
Nebworth. Okay. The event was good. Oasis came a poor third after Prodigy and the bootleg Beatles. Is that the name of actually a group?
Yeah, they were. That's literally what they were. They played Beatles songs.
Oh, okay. They're new to me. And Scott says, "Yeah, paper and pen are a brilliant choice." Yeah, I think that's what I did. I can't think of what else I would have chosen either. I think it was pen and paper. On the bright side, if any of your books turn out to be crap.
I'm just trying to think which of these books he could rebrand as toilet paper.
A Firelighter.
Bleak House Bog Roll.
Oh yeah. Scott chose a telescope. Yes. But you can start a fire. You can reflect and blind the pilot of the ship that's coming to rescue.
Or you could spot the ship that's just missed you as it sailed past.
Yeah. This was good again. And again, 2 hours of 50. I don't know. This could be the new norm for it here.
You're not going for like the whole sort of Joe Rogan length of things, are you?
Is that what his are?
I think it's 3 hours or something silly.
Oh, okay. Well, we won't go there. But yeah, so we got to figure out. Okay, so Scott's not laying in the gutter and looking at the stars. He's laying on the beach and looking at. Okay, I'm trying to paraphrase Oscar Wilde here somehow.
They've got a statue of Oscar Wilde just around the corner from Charing Cross Station, or a monument to him, and it has that quote.
Oh yeah, it's a good quote.
Well, Rush use it. You should know that as a proud Canadian.
Yeah. How lovely to see you both tonight. Thank you. Well, thanks for dropping in, Hannah.
Thank you, Hannah.
And next week, Debs is probably falling asleep or going on her Viking raids, one or the other. She's next week, and then Jenni is the week after. No, I looked at yours, Jenni, and it'll be interesting because it'll be an education for me. And this is the thing I got to. If I haven't read the books and I know the author, then at least I have something to talk about. If I haven't read the author, then I turn it around and I interrogate. Because what else have I got to do? Because I have no frame of reference for that. So, but there are authors that I do know, so that'll be good. But I always get the dread that somebody gives me a list of something that is just so obscure, or not maybe obscure so much, but stuff that may have been written in the last 3 months. It's like, what reference do I have for that? I have no reference at all. It's like, oops, I can't do that week. I'm sorry. I'll bump you for a while.
Here are the 8 arcs that I'm bringing on my desert island with me. I'm not allowed to talk about them either.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks very much, Gavin, for stopping by, and I hope your stay was good.
Thank you very much.
I'll change one to. Okay, you lost me there.
Yeah, A Court of Thorn and Roses. Do you know what? I read that as part of the banned books, so I could send you a copy. You could read it, so you'll know what it's all about.
I could, or I could read Hyperion with you instead.
That is next week, isn't it? I've got it.
Is it this coming week or the week
I
after?
think it's this coming week. Although we can put it back a week if you like. It's fine. But
Yeah. No, that'll be good to reread. Well, you'll get your dose of religion in that, as well as a bunch of other stuff. And depending on some of the characters, you might get the dose as well. I didn't just say that. No, I didn't say that. So everybody, thank you for stopping by, and it was fun again. And as I say, Debs should be back from her pillaging, her Viking pillaging, and we can do that. And then Jenni after that, and then it's all in the description there. Roy Reads Anything is the last of the month. There's 5 Sundays in March. Wow. Thank you, Joseph. And bye, everybody. We'll see you next time.
bye.